Chicago, hello and welcome to Community Pulse. As you know, Community Pulse is a public affairs show on CAN TV about public health in Chicago. Community Pulse and the Foxglove Alliance are sponsored by the Hectone Institute of Medicine, which is an 80-year-old Chicago not-for-profit institution that addresses some of the most pressing health concerns facing underserved populations in Chicago. My name is Tacora Love, one of the Community Pulse rotating co-hosts. I represent the Hectone Nurses in Humanities and the Academy of Medical Surgical Nursing, Chicago Chapter 317. You guys are in for a treat today. In the studio, we have the amazing LaToya Hinton. How are you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so Miss LaToya, she is the leader, the trailblazer of the Next Innovative Clinical Research Foundation, Next IR. And I'm so excited because LaToya and the Next ICR are new members of the Foxglove Alliance. Not only that, they are doing amazing work around the city of Chicago. And I know you guys are like, okay, Tacora, get to it. What is this all about? So I'm going to have Miss LaToya to jump right in and tell us all about Next ICR.
Okay, so Next ICR is Next Innovative Clinical Research. I am the founder and research director, and what we do is we facilitate clinical trials provided by pharmaceutical companies. So in a nutshell, before your doctor can write a prescription for you, before the medication can be at Walgreens and available for people to take, we have to make sure that it works. Yes. So I work with the pharmaceutical team to make sure that their medication works, see what the side effects are, and to make sure that it works for the indication that it says that it works for. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
All right, I love that. So one of the things for your organization, it is for the community. Can you tell us a little bit about your motto?
Okay, so it's for the community, from the community.
Yes.
So
yes.
I am Southside, born and raised, been in Chicago all my life. And one thing that I noticed once I got into the research industry, which I've been in the industry for about 16 years, is the lack of diversity in clinical trials, not only amongst the participants, but also amongst the doctors conducting the research. A lot of people know that research is done at the University of Chicago and Northwestern, but there's not a lot of independent research sites where we from the community have a say-so about what we're doing or be able to find a safe space to ask questions about research. So just being able to create that space from the community for the community. So I'm from the community, I'm for the community, and want to present those same things and opportunities for everyone that's in underserved communities of Chicago.
I love that. So you hinted at why you created this company, this drive, this mission. What is clinical research? You mentioned that it's, being able to do the research before innovative things actually make it to us.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of an overview of what it is that you and your company are doing in the community?
So what we're doing basically is educating. Number one, we're educating the community on what clinical trials are, the importance of minorities participating in clinical trials, and then ultimately we're providing those clinical trials. So we receive contracts from different pharmaceutical organizations such as Pfizer, AbbVie, Myovant, AstraZeneca, a lot of the larger drug pharmaceutical companies, and we're conducting their trials. So let's say there's an asthma study with AstraZeneca and they have an idea for a drug that they want to make sure that works for asthma. They need people to recruit in those studies.
Yes.
So we need participants. Yes. So we need participants of color because if they don't test these medications in us, they won't know if it works by the time it gets to market, by the time it gets to Walgreens, by the time your doctor writes a prescription. Do we know that medication actually works? And you can Google and look up the statistics to see how many African Americans participated in actual trials. And I want to say around COVID, the FDA signed a mandate that pharma companies have to be more inclusive exclusive of minority participants because they need the data to make sure that it works for us because our DNA is different. Everyone's DNA is different. So we just want to make sure that the right thing is out for the right people.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And one of the things, especially in, our community, there's this misconception about clinical research and clinical trials. And some of it, of course, is, historic. But how can we bust some of those myths, so to speak?
So I'll also add that I'm currently working on my dissertation.
Yes.
I have 2 more chapters to complete, and I actually just finished all of my interviews. And my dissertation is on basically why African Americans and urban communities don't participate in clinical trials. And what I'm finding, and what I've been finding over the years, is not that there's a distrust amongst the research or medical environment. It's not the distrust, and it's not Tuskegee, because a lot of the pharma industry would love to say Black people don't trust pharma. They're not going to participate in the trials. But what I'm finding is that a lot of people don't even know what clinical trials are. So especially the ones 30 and under, what's a clinical trial? I may get some people that's 60 and over that'll say Tuskegee, but my sweet spot between 30 and 50, those individuals are like, I've heard about clinical trials. I would love to participate. I don't know where. No one ever asked me. That's the number one thing. No one ever asked me.
Wow. And first of all, congratulations on soon to be doctor.
Thank you.
Really soon. And you're just doing amazing work in the community. And one of your exciting initiatives when I was doing my research and, have been talking to you, is the Clinical Research Coordinator Training Program.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit more about that? Because I believe a lot of our viewers would love to take advantage of that, not only learning what clinical trials are, but how do we coordinate the training and the research?
Yes. So first, the coordinator program came about because I was training my own staff. And I was creating these cohorts to train my staff. What's clinical research? What's a phase 1 trial? What's an adverse event? How do you consent patients? And my husband was like, you should make this a whole program and include it under workforce development, because a lot of people will take this class to learn how to get into the industry. And I thought about it, and my whole theory was if more minorities, African Americans, worked in the industry, then we'll have more people participating in those trials. So what I did was created a formal 8-week cohort program for people to learn about clinical research. We are in our cohort number 3 that will be starting in October.
Yes.
I want to say cohort number 2 finished a couple of weeks ago, and we had 35 people that signed up and finished the program. We have 17 that registered so far for cohort number 3, but what we're doing is educating people on getting into the clinical research industry, but you can't get in if you're not educated on what it is. So we educate on what it is. The jobs that people can get through the training program would be research coordinator, regulatory specialist, and then also community engagement or recruitment. So if someone's educated enough to talk about a clinical trial that's on heart disease, then that person is confident enough to go out in the community to do different events and say, hey, we're doing a clinical trial and this is what it entails. And then educating people that they're not a guinea pig, or educating them on the process of what it looks like to participate in a trial. And if they want to talk about Tuskegee, educating those people in the classes on what Tuskegee was and how it affected us.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, like I said, they don't know what it is. Even the ones that bring up Tuskegee don't know how it worked to see how we're preventing those things from happening today.
Today. Absolutely. And of course, we all know that there are still healthcare inequities that exist, but the work that you're doing is breaking down those barriers. What are some other initiatives or programs that you have in the community?
So we have our foundation, Next ICR Foundation, where we go to the community and we educate on different health disparities. We actually received a grant from Pfizer to do an initiative for sickle cell disease. And we held a sickle cell summit in June. It was on the west side of Chicago. We focused on this time. And we just had people come in from the community, healthcare providers, people who were affected by sickle cell, caretakers of loved ones that have sickle cell. And we just brought in some professionals. They came from Atlanta, and they did a training on what sickle cell looks like, different breakthrough treatments, and a lot of people's experience with sickle cell is different because one thing I didn't
Absolutely.
know was that there's different kinds of sickle cell. I didn't know. I
Absolutely,
thought it was
yes.
just one. And they're like, absolutely not. So yeah, just having those different initiatives where we have engaged the community on health disparities, health issues, just things that affect us.
Yes, yes. And then how can our community members, because of course community posts in CAN TV is to increase awareness in our public sector, for our Chicagoans, right? How can they become advocates for better health outcomes in their communities, in their neighborhoods?
So one thing is always educating yourself and knowing what's going on in your community, because what may affect one side of town may not affect the other side of town. Not knowing why. It may be a high instance of breast cancer in one community, but chronic kidney disease in another. So knowing what's going on in your community is number one. Educating yourself on what possible treatments can be, whether it be something that's a drug, whether it's something that may be a device, or whether it be something that someone can do with physical activity or diet.
Absolutely.
So just knowing what certain things going on in the community, and then utilizing resources
that are within our
so whether it be a resource with Next Innovative Clinical Research to say, hey, is there a trial that I could present to our community, or reaching out to different health organizations that say, hey, can you come and educate on specific things? So I would always say just reach out to see what opportunities are out there for collaboration, for partnership, because a lot of times organizations will, I don't want to say put their head in the sand and be like, well, our community is affected by breast cancer. We're just going to educate them and then that's it. But what I'm learning is sometimes just talking to people and educating them may not be enough. You got to hold some people's hands sometimes.
Absolutely. And, as a nurse, I couldn't agree more, right? It's that action plan. It's that next step. Sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So, I mean, you hit a very important point, like knowing the resources that are within your community, reaching out, asking those questions. So thank you for that. I do want to know, what has been the most rewarding moments in your journey to building Next ICR?
So what's really crazy is a lot of people will ask me, well, who's behind you? And I'm like, it's just me. Like, I don't have a person behind me. There isn't an organization behind me. Like, there's many organizations that I partner with. But as far as creating this brainchild of Next ICR and the ecosystem of the foundation and the university, it's me. And the one thing that I'm extremely proud of is that every day I push myself to see what I can do more to help the community. Because even early on in my career as a coordinator, because I started out as a coordinator as well, being a part of those trials and seeing how it impacts the patients, especially patients who don't have insurance, because one thing I didn't add is being involved in a clinical trial is free. So you don't pay for anything. You don't use your insurance. Everything's paid for by the pharmaceutical company. So the physical exams are free, the labs are free. If imaging is attached to that study, that's free. And the participants are paid for participating. One thing, we were doing a fibroid and endometriosis study some time ago. And like I said, this is when I was a coordinator. And we were doing a lot of testing. We were doing endometrial biopsy, ultrasound, DEXA scan, mammograms. And all of these were for free. And endometrial biopsy is one of those things that are not commonly done in the doctor's office, especially if the patient's complaining of fibroids. And we did a couple of endometrial biopsies for patients, and they were diagnosed with endometrial cancer. One of those things they would not have been diagnosed with if they had just gone to their doctor for their regular exams. So we were able to identify that and tell the patient so that they could follow up. But if they hadn't been a part of that trial, they would have just...
They never would have known?
Yep.
Until, and sometimes with, uterine cancers, endometrial cancer, sometimes it's already to the next stage, upon diagnoses, or, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, I love that.
So that's one of my most memorable moments.
Yeah. So what's next for ICR? What's your vision?
So I always tell myself, like, okay, this is enough. This is enough. But no, my vision is to be the go-to person for research. So when anybody thinks clinical trials, research, not to immediately think the larger institutions. I want them to think, oh yeah, there's this girl on the South Side. There's this girl in Bronzeville. I think her name is LaToya. That's what I want.
They're going to know your name. They're not going to have to think about it. They are going to know your name. We are manifesting that right now.
Yes, but I want to be that go-to person for research. I want to have a large research institution on the South Side of Chicago and then grow it to the West Side of Chicago. It's not for me to grow. I mean, everyone would like to grow and be like, I'm across the U.S., but I really want to focus on our communities, like where I go and where I hang out and where I know people. So,
wow, what is it that you want the community to know? What is very important for you, for anybody that is watching our show right now? What is, and it could be a couple of things, but what are like key takeaways that you want them to know?
Key takeaways. One big key takeaway is that clinical research should not be feared. A lot of people are like, I don't want to be a guinea pig. I don't want to be a part of a clinical trial. But when I break it down, and I'll tell you one thing, I talk to the patients that come to my office just like I talk to my mom, my cousin. We regular. And so I tell them, if you don't want to be a guinea pig now, if you want to look at it like that, when your doctor writes you a prescription and you're taking medication, you're going to be a guinea pig anyway.
Yes.
So it would be an advantage to be a part of a trial because we're tracking you, we're following you, we're doing all the necessary testing on the front end to make sure that you're healthy enough to participate in that trial. At any time, if you feel uncomfortable, you can say, I don't want to participate, but to at least give it a shot and to open your eyes to see what something is about instead of saying, no, I don't want to do that. Because ultimately, let's say we're looking at heart disease, high blood pressure. If this drug that we're testing right now doesn't help or benefit me, 9 times out of 10, it's going to help or benefit my daughter.
Down the line.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. So much right there. So we talked about the vision. We talked about what our Chicagoans need to know and your vision for the next steps. You know, one of the things that with research, where do they go? Where do they go? Where do they begin? We talked about the coordinator training, but for somebody who's not at like a Northwestern or a University of Chicago.
Well, the only place I could refer people outside of coming to my office, go to clinicaltrials.gov. Clinicaltrials.gov is a huge resource, and anyone that listens to me, if they have a health issue, their doctor is like not giving them a lot of answers, or they've been treated and they're not getting any relief, I said, why don't you look it up on clinicaltrials.gov? You having, knee pain, you can look up knee pain or osteoarthritis of the knee on clinicaltrials.gov, and you can see what organizations are doing clinical research in your area. So whether it is one of the larger institutions, it will even identify the smaller ones. What I will say is that on the South Side of Chicago, there are only 2 independently owned clinical research sites, and on the West Side, there are none. So majority of the smaller independently owned research sites are either in your northern or western suburbs or up north, downtown, but nothing on the West Side, only 2 on the South Side. So I am looking to expand that.
I love that. Even with the research that's out there, many of us can't travel.
Yes.
We cannot get to that. Some of the social determinants, prevent that. So I love that you are grassroots in the community helping and educating.
Yes.
That's so awesome. So is there anything else that you want to share about research? I know you mentioned like the sickle cell that you've done. Can you share, if you're able, some of the other clinical trials that you may have done?
Yes. So one of my favorites, ultimate favorite, is always women's health trials. So my fibroid and endometriosis trial, my favorite. I did that with AbbVie and Myovant a couple of years ago. And we're still running a Myovant one. We're done enrolling, but a lot of times people don't know what it takes to go into a clinical trial, what they're looking for. Not only are they looking for if the drug works and the side effects, but the effects on your body. So the Myovant trial that we were running, because it's a hormonal medication and it's for women with fibroids and endometriosis, they have to come in every 6 months for a DEXA scan because we need to know how it's affecting
What's
the bones.
the progression?
And so when they first did the trial, they have data for 2 years. So now they look for data for 4 years. So that's one trial that we are slowly closing out. We have a heart failure prevention trial that we're doing right now. We have a chronic kidney disease study that we're doing now. Also, asthma just started, and we are also waiting to hear back from Pfizer for a PCOS study, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then also a menopause study.
Oh my gosh, you guys got it rocking and rolling
yes.
over there. I love that. So for our Chicagoans, one of the questions that I think our audience may have, yes, as I learned about research, I learned about the clinical trials, I signed up, what's next for me?
So after you sign up, after you come to our office and we consent you and we walk you through what's to be expected, what you can expect from us, what we need to expect from you, we also, again, physical exam, labs, we give you a baseline of where you are.
Each trial may have different guidelines or different things that they have to follow.
So one trial may ask for a mammogram and one trial may ask for a vaginal swab. Just depend on what we're looking for.
And again, at no cost.
At no cost.
To the participant. So this is the education. These are the things that we need to continue to advance medication.
Absolutely.
I mean, not just medication, but healthcare in general, right? So, you know, research is extremely important in Chicago. And I'm hoping this goes even beyond Chicago, but, you know, this is a Chicago-based publication. But I'm hoping like this is one of the first steps, but even more to increase that educational awareness about research.
And one other piece I'll add is a lot of people, they will think research, clinical trials, and they'll think just drug, something they would have to take.
True.
We have
Very
devices as well. Almost forgot, we're doing a device study for yeast infection. So
you know,
that's a really
you
big
talked
one.
about that one. That one definitely like sparked my interest.
Yeah, it's a device that looks like a tampon, and yeast is in the body because the vagina is damp, is warm, is dark. But the doctor said, what if we change one of those things? So the device cools off the vagina, and they're like, will it kill the yeast? So right now we're still, you know, getting data on that, but so far so good.
Yeah, and I can just see like your passion is just, it's radiating. So thank you for all the work that you are doing. And from the Academy of Medical Surgical Nursing, Chicago Chapter 317, always a mouthful to say, we're excited to partner.
Yes.
We're excited to get our nurses involved in this education and this awareness and, you know, just partnering with you guys to, like, it's so exciting to change the narrative.
Yes.
And for not only our participants, but for healthcare in general.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I love that.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to share before we wrap up with Chicago?
Yes, I'm always willing and wanting to connect with local organizations. I will come out and speak and educate on clinical trials, educate on the training program, especially with high school seniors that's going into college.
Let's get
That's
them
another
going.
thing,
Yes.
reaching out to our young people and getting us in young,
Yes.
starting young and educating young, so when we get older or when they get older, we'll have a workforce full of people of color that knows about clinical research, people of color that's participating in these trials, so we won't have to go and try to make up and try to make up for lost times and figure out, oh, we got to remarket this drug or repurpose this drug because it's not working right. So
I love that. And what is the best way if someone is interested in connecting with you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
I would suggest for everyone to go to our website, nexticr.com. That's nexticr.com. And you can go and find out information on our current trials, the training course, our foundation. You can click the link and donate if you would like. And then also just click contact us. It'll come directly to our team and we'll contact you within 24 hours.
I love that. Chicago. Let us know if you want a part 2 because there is so much to unpack in here. But right now, go to that Next ICR website, enroll, take a look around. Don't be afraid of clinical trials. Don't be afraid of the research. We're only going to know how it is going to work on us for research and clinical trials. Want to take a moment to thank Ms. LaToya for joining us in the studio, as well as CAN TV, Community Pulse, Hectone. Have a great day, Chicago, and stay safe. Bye-bye.